Y'all, right now it's August 17th, 2017, and it's about 10:30 right now. And I'm gonna go into the chapter that I read yesterday, and I documented all of it on Facebook in my notes section. Well, actually, I did it in my status. I ain't have time to put it in my notes section because I'm using my new cell phone to do it, and I ain't whatever. But anyway, this is off the top, giving my thoughts about the chapter. Okay, it starts off talking about. Well, first let me go into the region that Jawf Al Yamamah was a part of was called back then the region of Najd, N-A-J-D. Okay, today is considered the region of Al Yamamah. But back then, that's what it was called. And you had another town called Riyadh, which is the capital of Arabia today. So I'm kind of wondering whether or not this little village, Jawf Al Yamamah, was or is also within Riyadh today. You know what I mean? So the names might be interchangeable as far as those two. But that's how it played out. You had a couple of other towns and villages and cities a part of this region of Najd also. It's a nice little swipe. It's in northeastern central Arabia. Not too far when you look at the map from the Al-Bahrain region, which is all of fucking eastern Arabia basically, excluding Oman. Alright, anyway, the tribe that inhabited this fucking town was called the Banu Hanifa tribe. Alright, so in 627, following the Battle of Al-Khandaq, Muhammad had messages sent throughout Arabia, alright, basically, trying to call the people to accept Islam, etc. And this is before he went on his complete conquest throughout Arabia. Alright, 627 AD, keep that in mind, YouTube. So anyway, one of the chiefs of the Banu Hanifa tribe that received this message, his name was Tamama ibn Uthal. And based on the chapter itself, he was fucking infuriated by this. Alright? 627 AD. Fast forward 3 years later, when damn near all of fucking Arabia got conquered. Also Yemen, Oman, and Al-Bahrain. Alright? Now when Oman got conquered, the only reason I'm going back into the history of Oman is because one of the guys that had jurisdiction over that area had got sent to the people of Al Yamamah. Alright? His name was Amr ibn al-Asi as-Sami. The area in Oman was basically northeastern Oman. Also Oman, keep that in mind. But the town itself was called Sohar. The people that lived there, they're basically descendants of the Al-As people. Even though when I read the chapter specifically about them, they are referred to the Al-As people. The Al-As people come from Marib, which is also in Yemen also. But during this time period, it's the 7th century, they began fucking immigrating like 400 years before that, at least 500 years before that, started in the 1st century, alright, throughout Arabia as well as ancient Syria, which is northwestern Arabia, also going further north throughout the Levant, Lebanon, etc., Iraq, fucking, even as far as Kerman, alright, and southern Iran. I like to say Iran, but anyway, during that time when the people of Oman got conquered, or at least the town of Sohar, you had two tribal kings. One, his name was Jafar, and another guy's name was Abdallah. So the guy that Muhammad placed as head or visor over them was the dude that I just mentioned, Amr ibn al-Asi as-Sami. Alright? So later on, around 630, Muhammad designated him as an envoy, alright, to attempt to get the people of Al Yamamah to convert to Islam. Now the interesting thing is, okay, it's an envoy, but you had two other characters that was a part of this envoy. One guy, his name was Habib ibn Zayed, and then another guy, his name was Abdallah ibn Wahb, and they both were brothers. Their mother comes into the picture later on as I go further into the chapter, so just bear with me. Again, this is off the top of the dome. So you had these three major characters characters a part of this envoy. What had ended up happening is that when they met with the people of Al Yamamah, a guy named Musaylima ibn Habib attacked these people. All right. Some of them got away, some of them got killed, but those two brothers that I mentioned got captured. And then the guy Amar ibn al-Asi as-Sami escaped as well. Okay, so those two brothers that got captured, it was Habib ibn Zayed. He was the guy that got his hands and his feet cut off. All right, that's what the chapter talks about. Now, a little bit after that, those people themselves, or at least the heads of Al Yamamah, had decided to send an envoy to Muhammad. Now, I want to pause there for a second because I got a thought on this. The reason why is because based on the Constitution of Medina that was set up in 622 AD, you know, it was like 57 to 58 statutes, regulations. According to the Constitution of Medina, everybody that was any persons, any tribe, any clan, a fucking entity, period, that were companions with Muhammad, that were sharing a covenant with him, pretty much were under protection. So if any one of these people, groups, clans, fucking tribes, etc., had got attacked by somebody else, that means everybody that adhered to this covenant was pretty much obligated to protect them, and also to seek revenge for these people if they had got attacked. So being that this delegation that was sent to Al Yamamah, being that two brothers had got captured and also some people got killed in the process, and not only did these two brothers get captured, one of them had their hands and feet cut off. All right, that means it was fucking guaranteed that there was going to be a follow-up. Now, in considering like the context of this period, Muhammad pretty much had almost all of Arabia. He had Yemen and he had Oman, thus Uman. Also, he had Al-Bahrain, all right, because Al-Bahrain was pretty much conquered in 529 AD. All right, so this is like a year before this. So in my mind, I'm thinking the people of Jawf Al Yamamah knew that it was imminent that an attack was going to come their way from Muhammad. All right, so again, it's a practical move on their parts to take a more diplomatic route. So an envoy was sent to Muhammad. Now, it was at least 5 people a part of this envoy. The guy that was initially infuriated when he received that message, which I still hold dear, that it was pretty much a get down or lay down message. But the guy, Tumama ibn, oh man, I can't believe I'm messing up. Tumama ibn Yuthal. Another guy was Muja'a ibn Murara. Another guy was Ar-Rajal ibn Anfuwa. The other guy that was responsible for decapitating the legs and feet of Habab ibn Zayed, which is Musaylima ibn Habib. All right, him, and then there was another guy, Muhakim. All right, so at least 5 people. Even though there's a lot more people a part of this envoy, obviously you're gonna have some soldiers with you and all that type of stuff. But these like the 5 main people that spoke to Muhammad personally, and they basically agreed on terms, and then they decided to convert Islam and also their people as well. As a token of this agreement, the guy Muja'a ibn Murara was given land. You know, the jargon that they use is fief. He was given land by Muhammad. But this land was also in Uman, which also validates to me that Uman was conquered prior to this happening. Now, the town in Uman that I mentioned already is called Sohar. the town that Muhammad had given to this guy as a token of their agreement is called Al-Katiba, or now actually Al-Katifa, all right? Which I also think translates to Al-Ghura, and I'll say why later on, probably in the second portion, because I think this video is about to cut off. But anyway, that was a part of the agreement between them. Also, the guy Ar-Rijal ibn Anfuwa, he learned Islam personally under Muhammad, all right? Muhammad, based on the chapter itself, he didn't have one of his ministers or qazis teach the guy Islam. He did it himself. You know what I'm saying? So that's the agreement. These people went back and they basically taught their people or converted them to Islam. Their people pretty much, as far as in Al Yamamah, consisted of polytheists and Christians. But also, they mentioned how, okay, the guy Musaylima ibn Habib, he proclaimed himself to be a prophet. Now, I trust the language, I'm going to say probably like 90%. I don't know if I completely trust the language, because every time they mention that guy's name, Musaylima ibn Habib, they refer to him as the false prophet. Because according to the content, he referred to himself as a prophet, but in the chapter, people go on to refer to him as a liar as well. But when he went back, he proclaimed prophethood to his people. Now, I understand the definition of a prophet. That's why I'm kind of, 10% iffy as to whether he should be referred to as a false prophet or not. You know what I'm saying? A prophet is not really a magical individual that was born through an immaculate conception. A lot of people could consider themselves to be a prophet. You know what I'm saying? But, this is the language that they use or whatnot. Now, the guy Muhakim, he vouched for Musaylima ibn Habib as being a prophet. So this lasted for quite some time. About 2 years after that, Muhammad had died. And hopefully I'm not forgetting anything, and if I am, I'll go over it, before the end of part 2 of this video. But Muhammad had died. He died in 632, June of that year, June 8th to be exact. When he died, Abu Bakr became the first Islamic caliph after that. Now, again, based on the fucking chapter itself, a little bit following the death of Muhammad, almost immediate, these people became turncoats. The term that they use, or the jargon that they use, is apostates. People that basically repel from their belief system, in other words. When they became turncoats, that's when Caliph Abu Bakr ordered one of their famous Islamic generals. He came up a lot so far in this book, his name was Khalid ibn al-Walid. He ordered him. And by the way, that's the same guy that, pretty much damn near destroyed Dumat al-Jandal, which is also in northwestern Arabia. I already talked about that. That's why I say he come up a couple of times. But he was ordered to go and repel these people and defeat them and kill them, basically. So he gathered up his troops or whatnot, and he marched toward Jawf Al Yamamah. He got a certain distance to where he was able to see the town and